Is it possible to actually be able to paint well without knowing how to draw? Absolutely. But today, if you're on the fence and you want to kind of get your foot in the door with sketching, this video's for you. We're going to start with pencil sketching and then ink them up, and then of course finish up with some easy, breezy, stress-free watercolor. Let's get into it.
We're going to start with the daffodil today. Now I'm going to sketch in at least the first one, and maybe more. We'll see how we're feeling. I am using a 3H. It's a vintage pencil, but use a pencil that you're comfortable with. If it is like a B, a 2B, a 3B, just be careful and not press too hard. I prefer for this kind of beginning sketching for it to be a harder, lighter kind of lead. So the H's are good for that. Okay. So daffodils have always befuddled me. And I'm going to take it easy on myself today. And don't worry, friends, I'm going to darken this really quickly so you can better see what I'm doing. But we're starting off with basically 2 circles. One circle is larger, that's your main center. So think about that ruffly center of the daffodil, okay? And I'm going to actually start to add, I'm going to edit that circle shape and make it more ruffly. And this is where I'm darkening it up for you so you can really see it. And then that second circle is much smaller and quite a bit off center to the left. And then comes the fun and, dare I say, a little more easy part where you're going to create these petals, which are basically like a cut off teardrop that have little imperfections, little bumps and bounces in them, right? And we're going to start off with just doing 3. Now you should go much lighter, unless you're really comfortable and familiar with creating daffodils. I would like you to go much lighter so that you can make edits. If you feel you need to use that eraser, you can do it, all right? Typically, at least in this kind of like very classic daffodil type style, these backmost petals are the ones that are kind of underneath, that are connecting first to the stem underneath, if you imagine it that way, are a little more rounded and have less like waves and bumps, if you will. All right, we're going to take some of these bumps back to that circle shape. See how I'm doing that? And I'm curving very much in the direction of the bump. And I'm following that curve around, all right? And we can put a little bump here as well. Now you can make edits if you feel like you want another little petal, right? You can put that in back here. I feel like I want just a hint of one here, right? And they're not always going to have the point facing perfectly center in between each of the other petals that are already created, right? So the other thing that you can do with kind of this top down or forward facing daffodil is still add some long graceful leaves. And I know you're thinking, Kristy, what are you doing? You just went over top of what you just sketched. And I did, friends, because I have some experience with sketching these daffodils, and I kind of know that I kind of want that overlap. So this will, of course, be erased. And that is really why I suggest not pressing hard at all, because the harder you press, the more difficult. I mean, look at here. I didn't press hard on that particular petal, and it is still kind of being a little resistant to erasing. All right. So a little long petal. The thing about daffodils, tulips have them too. Some flowers, irises, they have, not long petals, sorry, long leaves. They have these long leaves. And because of the way that I'm going to eventually fill this page, I know that I don't want a long stem. So I'm like, well, how can I get those leaves in? And knowing those leaves will help this daffodil look without it being a really long presence on the page. And I think that is how. So I'm going to go behind these petals here with another third long leaf. They're all emanating though from this bottom point. So I'm going to come up a little. I'm not going to start right at the point. And I'm just going to make the long, think of it as like a long teardrop, right? A really long teardrop. All right, I'm feeling good about that. I am not going to ink these quite yet. I love to go through at the end and kind of ink them all at the same time. And just a little bit of erasing there, right? Now, you're gonna feel awkward in these early stages. Your sketch may not feel quite, quote, right, but don't be nervous. Once you start getting the lines on here, once you start getting your color on here, it's going to feel delightful. Trust me. All right, friends, next up, I was feeling some ivy. I know it's kind of traditional, but I was definitely feeling the ivy vibe. So here's the thing. Ivy is pretty symmetrical. So we're gonna start, I like starting with just a line down the middle of my biggest leaf of ivy, right? Then we're gonna come down from the top. We're gonna repeat. Everything that we're gonna do, we're gonna repeat on the other side. Come out here a little, come out here a little, and then you're gonna come back down and meet it right down here. And remember, I'm going light. I know this is a little hard for you to see, all right? I know, I'm going light. I know. All right. And then we're going to come a little bump in and come down here, right? You could curve this a little depending on the inspiration photo you're working from, and then go ahead and erase out that harder angular line that you had. You can make a little bump in between. Let me show you this. I do find an eraser to be handy in this kind of illustration style, right? I find it to be really handy. Now you could go back in, because here's the thing, friends, you may decide, I don't want to ink these. You may decide, I want to have a darker pencil line, and that is cool. So I'm going back in and editing these, right? To give you an idea of how I would go back and add little bumps and grooves and just little imperfections along that original silhouette that I sketched in. And then we're going to have a few more veins in here, and the veins are going to be a little less, they're not going to be continuous lines necessarily all the way. All right, I know that looks so weird, but stick with me. Now I'm going to come up here and I'm going to add a little bit of vine, a little bit of stem, because we know ivy is a vine. And then I'm going to wide out. Notice what I'm doing here. I'm laying down one line. It's wavy and imperfect. And then I'm going right next door, right next to it, and laying down another. You can add some little buds and bumps here at the end. See how I'm doing that? So cute, so cute. And then let's do a little baby leaf. The nice thing about baby ivy leaves is that they're not fully formed. So they can be a little, you know, dare I say, unrecognizable, unrealistic. You know, you don't have to worry so much about them being that iconic kind of ivy shape, right? And even the leaf here that I was trying to make iconic, it still has Kristy personality in it, right? It still does. Okay, this is the bottom edge of the next leaf that I'm doing. It's just a little mountain, okay? And then I'm gonna just lightly come up on either side. It's curved, I know, it's not gonna stay curved. And then I'm gonna come in, see how I'm doing that? And then I'm gonna come up a little, and then I'm gonna go in like a little house, like a little roof on the house. See how I did that? All right, now line through the center. I'm just showing you a different way. This one I started with a line through the center. Did not do that here. I wanna show you different ways so you can start to feel comfortable knowing that there are indeed different ways. Now I'm kind of going over and editing these curved shapes that I used to start, because it was just easier for me to form the shape initially with this by using a little more curved, soft shapes, right? And now I'm editing them. Going over, I'm gonna bump that out a little more, add a little extra bump to it. Ivy can feel really scary because there's a lot of lines going on. You've got the lines in the veins. You've got these silhouettes that have all these like jut outs. They're kind of like maple leaves in that regard. Like some folks, myself included, get a little intimidated by maple leaves. So just break it down in a way that feels like it makes sense for you. Like, let's just look at this here, okay? Right here, this shape, follow my pencil. This one right here, right here. That one stuck out to me when I was sketching this, just that part, right? So maybe you just draw that part first, and then you draw little like bat wings, right? Little wings, right? So just find your way of breaking down these shapes that feels good, that makes sense, that just really kind of hits you in a way that feels authentic, that feels not struggle, not a constant struggle. All right, here's another way. This leaf here in the background, I'm going to put the point kind of as if it were vanishing underneath this one. I'm going to come out here. All right, I am just doing the whole entire, it's almost like a real squat, like lumpy diamond. And I'm going to put the center line down, right? And then I'm going to edit. So this is just another way. You can start with the whole shape, right? Start with the whole shape and then kind of edit things and mess around and play around. And I just always keep going back to that interview I did with Sarah Simon, the Mint Gardener, where she says you're searching for your one true line, right? So it's not going to be perfect and lovely and exquisite that first time you lay down a mark, right? It's just not. It's not. Don't expect it to be. And if it is, because sometimes that does happen. But if it does happen, like, just be like, oh, that was cool. And we'll see that happen again in a decade. Like, don't get too excited. All right. See, I popped another one in there. I have a little suggestion of a stem here or a vine, whatever you want to call it. So this is just a fun little cluster of ivy that I think could be a lovely addition to for filler in some of your artwork. I get asked a lot, like, just different filler, Kristy. We need different filler. We need something that is not what we're seeing everywhere. And so I thought, gosh, I'm going to go back to ivy. I'm going to go back to ivy because I just feel like she gets a bad rap. Another thing about ivy to think about is that oftentimes the veins are starting down low and kind of emanating out from that low point. And then they kind of have veins that then emanate down. So they emanate up from this point and down. It's really interesting. I find ivy to be so interesting, so much so, look at how I'm editing this shape here. I'm having a lot of fun editing this. Yeah. So yeah, there we go. And that way you can see those down veins. All right. Getting a little funky here. I'm going to bring in some more veins. I'm making these a little more continuous and then a little bit up here. There we have it. And then I want just a little hint of something coming out here. I almost think maybe another little viney moment. I don't know. This is where you can have fun. These are like the baby leaves, like I mentioned before. They don't have to be so perfect. All right, there is our ivy. All right, next up, friends, these two are a little stressy. And I want to give you something that's distinctively less stressy. But before I do that, I'm just feeling like I need a little something here. I am not even looking at my reference photo. I want to take this opportunity because I really did feel like I needed a little something extra here. All right. So I'm going to add a stem. I'm going to use that kind of mirroring technique where I draw one line for the stem and go right next door and draw the next, right? And I know I want the leaves point to be kind of right here, right? And I want it to be a little smaller than these two. So, visual interest. So let's see. I'm just going to do this from my brain. I'm going to put the roof on, all right? And I'm going to go out this way. She gonna be too big. That's okay. And then I'm going to come down. And then I'm going to go in, I'm going to come down, and I'm going to go in. All right, I'm feeling that. I'm okay with that. I'm going to add my line in between, see how that feels. Do I need a little bump? I think I need a little bump. I'm going to add the bump. All right, and then I'm going to try to connect it here. Look at that. Look at that. I just connected that right in. I'm not sad about that. And then remember, if I were to put my vein here, I don't think it would look as convincing. I'm going to point the vein back down, and continue that kind of vibe. And that feels very ivy-ish. All right, now I went round this out up here, right? Round it out, little bumps, little notches. It makes it just feel more ivy-like, right? And then go ahead and erase what isn't needed, or don't erase it, to be quite honest, because you could get away with not erasing it. Once you add the watercolor, you could add some more shading in there. Yes, we are going to watercolor these bad boys. All right, so that's good. That's good. Let's get to the berries, friends. Berries make me happy. Berries are life-giving. I might scale these up a little bit. Yeah. Let's just start with some circles. But what I want you to do is each circle I actually don't want them to be circles. I want some to be ovals. So think the berries that are more even circles are going to be your front facing. They're going to be the ones that we see. And then we're going to add a little like asymmetrical wonky star to the middle. You see how I did that, right? And then we're going to add a little like smiley face here facing this way. And we're going to add a little crown. We're going to add a little crown to this one. You see that? A real asymmetrical, wonky crown. And we are just going to repeat that and have ourselves some good fun. Okay? You're just going to repeat that. We're going to add more. We're going to add some smaller ones, right? We're going to go down here and add some that aren't attached, because you just wait. We're going to attach them. It's going to be so cool. All right? We're going to add, just remember, you don't want them all to be perfect circles, right? Find that one true line. Find that one true line. This one's kind of facing upwards in this way. So we could do the little smiley face, but it's not really needed. We could just put the wonky star crown on her, right? You could put a little circle in the middle. Put a little circle in the middle here. It gives it kind of a vibe, more of a blueberry vibe. You can do an oval here. So again, circle, big circle is a front-facing top-down blueberry, and then you want to do more of a symmetrical circle in the middle for that accent. But if you've got these oval blueberries, you want your center to be oval, right? Yeah. All right, let's keep going. I'm going to put a big one here. Big one. Big. All right. I'm definitely trying to find my one true line. All right, leaf time. Stem, I'm going to bring it down from here. I am following a reference photo, but do you need to constantly follow one? No. See what I did here? I just created that first curvy, wonky moment of this leaf. Now I'm going to come out, and yes, I'm going to go right down over. And you're like, Kristy, why did you draw it in the first place? I don't understand you, lady. And then come right here with a straight line, and you've got your little curve. You can make this bigger. You can make this fold bigger and then erase it out. All right? You might want to rewind that one. But it's good times, good fun. All right. And I'm just editing all that I just did. But that gives you an idea of how to get that kind of that curve, and then come down the middle with your veins, and then let's get these going. These are much wispier. These are more traditional in terms of their placement, where they end and where they begin, than let's say the ivy, right? And then I forgot to erase out the blueberry. And you're probably wondering, like, well, Kristy, why did you draw it in the first place? Because sometimes that's how my brain works, and it's how my brain sees, and it's just how my brain is asking me to sketch, and it just works for me. It may not work for you. It may just feel completely ridiculous, and like, why would I do that? And now I can see some of the pencil line halos. Then do it the way and in the order that makes most sense to you, right? I'm just giving you options. My son is in 2nd grade, and he is doing the type of math. I won't say the phrase because it's controversial and people get upset, but he's doing the type of math where they give you all the different strategies, like, 6 or 7 different ways to solve the same problem. And some of the ways are more visual. Some of the ways are like writing based. And, my son can do his math, and he's really good at his math, do another leaf here without all of the newer, dare I say, strategies, right? But I say to him, like, buddy, some people, we have all different types of learners. This happens to work for you. But let me tell you, when I went to school, we were only taught that way. And that way didn't make sense to Mom. I wish I had all these other strategies. I wish I knew all these other strategies. So anyway, and he kind of understood it because, the teacher makes him do all the strategies. So I'm showing you all the strategies. You get to pick the one that makes most sense. All right, I did add that leaf in very much the same approach, okay? Now, what I like to do is add some very basic leaves to the scene. And that, yes, less realistic, but I just think they add moments of real fun and moments for the eye to kind of rest from all the seriousness of this situation. I don't know how else to say it, and that's more of a me thing, my own particular style of sketching or art. You don't have to do that, but again, giving you the strategies because I find it to be so fun and so cute. I'm going to add another berry or 2 or 3 or 4 here. I think I want her front facing. So just a little wonky star crown. Lovely and imperfect. And I want a few more stems to emanate out from this little intersection here. That is the key, my dear friends, to making anything, filler moments, greenery, anything that you want it to look like it's kind of tucked behind something, or you want it to look like it's spraying out in a bouquet. You want to have that point, that vanishing point, where all of your stems, all of your texture is emanating out from that one point. I just have found that to be a no-fail way of getting the look that you're after. You see that light change and that sun moved big time. All right, so think of your smaller leaves. Honestly, all of these leaves are teardrops. They really are teardrops that we're just cutting into and editing in different ways. That's it. And I know I'm kind of oversimplifying the idea, but that's how you have to start. That's how you have to think about sketching, is you do have to start really simple and break it down enough for yourself that you can see it. You want to you're chasing that aha moment when you are illustrating or painting, especially illustration, because it's a little more precise and you are chasing that aha moment where it all just makes sense and it looks convincing, right? Right. All right, next up, friends, we have a hydrangea. And I know hydrangeas I get a lot of questions about them. They feel scary. We're going to start with a little squat, almost like a mushroom top. Do you see what I'm doing there? And you see that shape I'm making? Let me just get it a little darker, and I'm going to add some bumps to it. You'll understand why. But I started with a very light touch in my pencil and kind of this mushroom top kind of shape, okay? And we're going to come down and we're going to just think about our stalk or our stem. I find it most convincing that the hydrangea kind of meets, or the branch of the hydrangea kind of meets the flower in a kind of a Y format, right? Not just a single part. This looks a little funky here, so we want it to be, a hydrangea branch has got some beef, some body to it, right? So it needs to feel and look like it could really support that big puffy flower on top, right? All right, so then I want to get one leaf in, so I'm just going to come out again, that mirroring sketch line, and we're going to come behind, but I want the leaves are really girthy, if you will. So I want to make sure I have kind of that circle volume at the start, right? And then I can build upon that. See how I did that? Really making sure that my eye was seeing and that my pencil was establishing that kind of heft in the leaf. All right, We're going to put another leaf in eventually. We're going to make probably this branch a little thicker, but let's get to this part that looks so strange to you right now. I'm sure of it. So here's the thing. A hydrangea is made up, of course, as you know, of all these little individual flowers. And they kind of look like that. Let's head over here and let me just make that bigger so you can see what I'm doing. A little circle in the center. And we're going to kind of create a soft diamond, right? It has a blunt stop here at the center, but these aren't super pointy, right? A blunt diamond, and then edit and build upon that blunt diamond kind of vibe, right? Some of them are going to be touching, some of them aren't. You can do one that is like really off center. Those points are not across from each other whatsoever. See how you can edit these diamonds? You can make them super skinny, right? Like a side view, but it's all about the little diamonds. All right. You are going to fill this. We are going to fill this with a variety of those types of little flowers. And some are going to escape the edge. Some are not. And that, my friends, is your hydrangea. Here's a skinny one, skinny one. Once you see it, once you feel it, it just makes sense. All right? Look at that. See all those diamonds that are happening? Some can be really short and like stubby, right? I'm going to let this escape a little bit. I am pressing pretty hard. If you're not feeling super confident yet about this situation, then by goodness, do not press hard. You don't have to. I'm pressing hard because I want to make sure that you see what I'm doing. But yeah, you see it starting to come to life? Yeah, so good, right? All right, a big one here facing forward, and then kind of a weird one here. These aren't even diamonds, but I want this to feel like it's kind of jutting out at me as the viewer. Hopefully that makes sense. So some of these become almost triangles in that sense. But just keep thinking about the blunt diamond shape where they're not super pointy, they're not super symmetrical, and then you can edit that concept so many different ways. All right. I find this extremely meditative to kind of fill these in. And as you're starting to fill it in more, you can make some of these little flower buds or blossoms that even less exact to this original format. Like I did a little bit of it here. You can go a little more abstract if you want. If you really don't want your hydrangea to feel as ball-like, because let's be honest, in real life, some hydrangeas are they look symmetrical, like when you stand back from them. But if you don't like that look of a hydrangea, I'm actually of the ilk that really enjoys hydrangeas in their later days where they're kind of getting droopy and super like asymmetrical, and they've kind of got that cool like burn on the petal, like that ombre. That's what I'm after. Then just make sure some of your little diamonds are really kind of interrupting in some places so you get that asymmetry. All right, and we're just gonna keep going. We're gonna keep going and fill her up. You can add some extra just dots around here, right? How you feeling, friends? Are you having a good time? Is this creating a space where you're having like aha moments, or do you have questions that you really feel like you need answered in order to kind of do this for yourself? So either way, let me know in the comments, say aha, let me know what that aha moment is, or ask your question. I do my very best to answer all comments. It's hard, and I sometimes don't get it. I often don't get it, but I try. So get in there, because you know what? If it's not me, someone else is going to answer your question. This community is flipping fantastic, and I know they're going to be there for you. All right, I'm going down here I actually don't like where I placed that little stem where we're going to start our second leaf. I'm going to go a little bit lower. And this leaf is going to be a side view and curved down. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to come out. We're going to go down. And then we're going to come back up and come in because we're going to create that straight line and do a curve. There we go. And remember too, these illustrations on the page could look a little awkward because they are meant for you to then take these skills and put them into a composition, cluster them together, so you're not going to be seeing just like a random hydrangea stem, making an appearance as it is right now. It's going to be tucked behind something, or I think you get the drift. But these are skills that are going to carry you into your next composition so beautifully with so much more confidence. At least that is my hope. All right. And there is our hydrangea. I mean, she is like, hello, lovely people. She's like loud and proud, waving at you. I mean, there is no mistaking that that's a hydrangea. All right, we're gonna save some of the editing for the pen. So I'm getting a little ahead of myself. It's all right. Find moments, ways, opportunities that you can be kind to yourself in this process. So that means pointing out little spots of an illustration that you really like, that you're really happy with and proud of. All right, friends, next up, don't be scared. We're doing some Queen Anne's lace. We're doing it right. Okay, start with the center. You want that dark dot. Do you ever notice that Queen Anne's lace has this like really cool little dark dot in the middle? And I feel like sometimes we miss it. Then we're gonna come out. We're going to come out light. We're going to come out and we're going to kind of radiate like a starburst with a little curve. The thing that is tough about Queen Anne's lace is that it's hard to see the structure of it. You've got to look close. And remember, friends, I'm providing you with these reference images that I myself was using. All right. So all of that structure is covered up. You really have to really look for it. And even when you're looking for it, you're like, is that right? Is that right? But what I figured out over the years is that it is kind of like a very wispy pinwheel at the core of it. And then we're going over top and doing these little fluffy, fluttery filler connected to the vast majority of that wispy pinwheel structure. Now they're almost like clouds, I guess is a way to put it. And some of the areas of the clouds have really weird moments that just jut out randomly. But all in all, you could easily start with just kind of a cloud-like shape, almost like a cartoon cloud-like shape, and then edit it. You knew I was going there. You knew I was going to say edit. Yeah. That's how I see this whole thing with illustrating, is this just a lot of like establishing your basic shapes and then realizing, okay, it's time to make edits. It's time to make that edge a little more bumpy lumpy, or make this a little more pointed, or so you first focus on seeing the very, very simple basic shapes, and then you work out from there. All right, see what I'm doing here? I've just been building my little wonky cloud shapes. And yes, you can go in and erase the original lines that are no longer necessary if they're bothering you. Go ahead and erase them. That's going to make your kind of Queen Anne vibe appear that much sooner. So we are chasing satisfying was definitely the better word, satisfying results here. That's what we chase with watercolor, any art making, that moment where you're like, yes, I did it. It looks like the thing I wanted it to look like. I did it, right? That's what we're chasing. I am looking at my inspiration image, but I'm not like looking at it so much that I'm trying to copy every little bump and lump. Like, I'm just not. Let's put a little stem in here. Stems of Queen Anne's lace don't have all the bumps and lumps. They just don't. So be a little more symmetrical with that. All right. So when you're doing that double, that mirrored effect, you want to be a little more exacting, and you want to be a little more like careful Yep. To create that really nice symmetrical line. All right, let's come down here. These little clouds are kind of saggy towards the right. This one's not curved enough. Honestly, this one wasn't curved enough. Because the reality of it is you're still going to see some of that structure even when this is all said and done. These ones should curve more like that. There we go. All right. I erased out some in the center. And you're just going to keep working your way around and remembering to look at the way that your pinwheel is curved. The line of your pinwheel is curved. That's going to actually help determine kind of the direction of your little cloud puffy shape. Does that make sense? Because that was an aha moment for me. Like, how in the world am I going to determine the shape of this fluffy thing? Well, I want it like a little downward and right facing because that's the direction of my structure, that structural line that I added in. It's curved. It's kind of like a frowny. So it's curved like a little hill, a little frown, and it's going to the right. So I can kind of mimic some of that with the shape of this my fluffy little Queen Anne's lace cloud. Wow, say that 5 times fast. Holy moly. Hopefully this is giving you some moments, friends. I hope it's making sense. I'm just explaining it the way that it works out in my head. And sometimes it's weird. But I have found that the weird ways that I have figured out how to explain things tend to give a good amount of aha moments. And again, that's what we're after. So again, see, kind of like I followed the curve here. This one's still kind of pointing and going in the same curve. This one's starting to curve up. In fact, I want it to curve up a little more, so I'm going to add a few more little floofs there, right? This one's curving up. I'm going to add a little floof there that's curving up. It's all about the floofs, right? And we see our Queen Anne's lace emerging. Now let's really hit it. We're going to do a little frowny, all right? We're going to go right underneath with our second frowny. This one could be a little bumpy lumpy because it's more wispy. And we're going to go ahead and add a little scrappy, scraggly, little leafy. You know, Queen Anne's lace doesn't really have leaves. It has like these really tender, like furry, I don't know what to call them. Let's add another one over here. But they're very characteristic of Queen Anne's lace. And we don't want to do too much. Don't do too much. Like, I almost feel like I only wanted one. I'm not sure yet. I may erase that one. That's okay. We'll go back and add the floofs. Add the floofs. All right, we got to do a little bit more here. The inspiration photo definitely is like asymmetrical with the floofs, right? So I'm going to try to honor that because I like the way that looks in the inspiration photo. All right, all right. Now I'm going to intersect right here. I'm going to come up a little bit. I'm not going to go all the way to the bottom to start my new stem. And I'm going to just do the stem. That was a little thicker, but I'm okay with it. And what I'm going to do here is a little bud. Now, Queen Anne's lace buds kind of look like, oh, how do I want to explain it? Kind of like a little, is it like a little cap? I think that's how I want to explain it. So let's do a little oval. All right. And we're going to just, you know what it is? More like a lampshade. It's more like a lampshade. You see what I did there? Yeah. It's more like a lampshade. I've got a lot of lines there, so I'm going to redo this so you can really see what I did. There's our oval, and then we're going to come right over top of the oval from the left-hand side and kind of put like a little cap on it, right? Now it's time to edit and have fun and put in the, like, make it bouncy because this is the beginning. This is the beginning structure of that Queen Anne's lace. You can see those lines appearing, right? And then let's make way more asymmetrical, but that's how you start. That's how you start it. I'm going to add in another little hint of a stem there. Actually, holy moly, big erase moment, okay? I am going to change the trajectory of this stem. Go up, come up. I love this like mirroring effect to create stems. It takes so much of the pressure off. All right, there we go. There we go. There we go. There's our little Queen Anne's lace, little boop, little stem. And we will excuse me, it's not a stem. These are the stems. Hello. It is a bud. It's a bud. And it just feels good. We're going to be able to add more editing. Once we get into the pen phase, we can add some more editing. But there is our Queen Anne's lace. Feeling really good about her. How are you feeling? Actually, let's add a third stem here just for symmetry's sake, all right? So we got her coming out. And then let's go ahead and mirror on the wall, all right? And then another little, that's actually really thick here. And all right, and then just one more little floofy leaf, right? Something like that. Love it. All right, coolio. Now remember, friends, we're gonna add ink. And then once that ink is dried or cured, because we don't want to like erase and have it smear or paint and have it smear, we're going to give it some time to like rest. We're going to erase everything. That's what I'm feeling like doing. So some of these extra lines that we really don't need, they're going to disappear anyway. So no worries. All right, friends, the last bit we're going to do here is kind of like a pothos plant, pothos leaf. Find the pothos plant to be such great inspiration for greenery as I'm painting. You've got the gorgeous vine quality. This kind of stuff happens when a new leaf is about to unfurl. You see that? And then of course you've got these just gorgeous variegated leaf shapes that are just fire. All right. So we are going to use my little baby here. She's a newer plant of mine, and I'm gonna share some pothos. All right. So a pothos leaf has a really distinct and kind of fat belly. So we're going to start with some circles. Let's just do a bunch of circles of different sizes, and you can turn some of them into ovals. All right. And then we're going to build out from there. And the thing about a pothos is just very slow curves, very graceful. Okay, so you're going to go back to each of your circles. And now I'm just having this plant here for reference. I'm not trying to copy it. Now this leaf here, I think will be a good one though. If you did want to kind of use my reference, the thing about some of these leaves, depending sometimes on their angle, they kind of look like hearts. All right, so I'm going to do a curved line down the middle, and I'm going to make this darker for you so you can see it. See that heart appearing? But it's still a very clean shape, not a lot of wiggle, a little bit of wiggle, not a lot. And there you have it. I like to sometimes make like the stem kind of curling out from the top here. I love that. It's going to be a little wider at the base where it meets the leaf. And let's just keep going. Now we've got the basic idea down. Now they're not all going to look like hearts. They don't all need to look like hearts. This one I'm actually going to change. I'm going to keep the circle, and then I'm going to point it up this way. And I want to make it a curled leaf. So we're going to put that curve in. We're going to basically make our teardrop, friends. All right. And then we're going to come over here straight. We're going to try to go as straight as possible. And it's going to make it look like a little bit of a curved, curling leaf. And then we can just, you guessed it, erase out the stuff we don't want. I love pothos leaves as filler. Once you've learned how to create a few different really effective pothos stems or clusters of leaves, you will find yourself going back to them again and again and again, because they're just so, they've got that classic vibe in certain situations. They can be kind of edgy in others because of this, texture on the leaves. They're just a win-win. I love when the leaves are just starting to pop. As I mentioned, you can include those like little swirls. See how I'm building that swirl? I'm just making the same mark over and over again. Let's do another one here. So you just create a really long, skinny, kind of wonky teardrop, and then you're gonna curl, make that curled mark again and again to the bottom, maybe a little bit up there, right? So fun. I love it so much. You can make a stem. The thing about pothos is they have some really interesting the way they grow and the way they just appear. All right, now we're gonna do our oval here, and our point's gonna come down here. So just always establish that oval, right? And then establish your vein in the middle. And then let's go ahead and really make our leaf. Bring it out here, just following those lines you've already set. Love it. And there you have it. And just erase out. You don't have to erase it at this point. You can erase it later on in the process. And let's just add a few more. Maybe one coming up this way, something like that. I want this one to be a little bit more of a heart. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Simple, simple, simple teardrop. Add a little divot if you want it to be heart-shaped. Connect with the stem. Boom, 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 shakalaka. And you can see how easily you can just keep building and building and building. I love this one here, kind of a elongated, skinnier version, and a really distinct kind of heart shape, and then curving it in. As you get more familiar with this, you're not going to have to build the whole shape out with basic shapes before you start editing. You're going to feel that confidence start to grow, like I just did there. Look at that. She's so pretty. I love her. I love her so much. Boom. And then we're going to come down. This spot here's a little weird to me. What did I do here? Talk to yourself, friends. I talk to myself so often as I'm illustrating, painting, whatever creative thing I'm doing. I talk to myself when I'm cooking, and just keep adding, keep building. There will come a point, friends, where it feels more natural, where it feels more automatic, if you will. All right, where it feels more automatic, and you will start to look at this process as a very cathartic kind of endeavor, because you don't have to think as much as you used to. And that comes from just following these kind of the process of understanding and learning your shapes. And then one day you'll sit down and you'll realize, it's kind of like, you know, that feeling where you're coming home from the grocery store and you've made the trip a zillion times, and all of a sudden you're in your driveway and you're like, wait, how did I get here? It's kind of like that with the art. It is. It's kind of like that. You'll get there. And then you'll be like, how did I get here? And then you'll smile. And it's all good. All right, let's get to the inking. All right, friends, in previous videos, I used more of kind of a felt tip type pen. Today, I'm feeling a need for the personality that a brush pen can bring me. This is KURETAKE's. They are designed after like a bamboo brush, as you can see. And I'm gonna have all the supplies linked in the description below. Here's the thing that I want you to be aware of with the pen that you choose. And I'm just gonna show you what I mean, okay? This one acts a lot like a longer bristled brush that comes to a most lovely, delicious, fine point. You're gonna get dry brush moments depending on how hard. When I push harder, it's gonna go dry brush. And when I lift my pressure, see that? It goes really thin and really crisp, right? Now, you could opt for a pen like this Faber-Castell, the Pitt pen that has more of a traditional kind of illustration point, where you're gonna get the kind of same thing all the time. Now, this one's kind of running out. This one's on its way out, but you can see what I mean. No matter the pressure, you're gonna get the same kind of line, but you're not gonna be able to get easy, thicker lines and thinner lines in one swoop or sweep or press of the brush, or excuse me, the pen. This is a line maker from Derwent. Really nice one, very thin line, very thin line. And again, the same idea. I am changing my pressure here, but you'll notice the line is not changing at all. So decide what pen you want to use. Because we're painting over top of it, you want to make sure that the pen you're choosing, like the KURETAKE and like the Pitt pen, I don't know if I've tested the Derwent line maker, but they all are going to be resistant to bleeding once water is added. I just like to give them a little bit more time to dry so I can know for sure that we're not going to have any issues with things bleeding. All right, this is the fun part, friends. This is where you already have established all of your stuff. This is where you get to add zhuzh and more personality. And this is why I'm using this particular pen today, because I want to see thick and thin. I want to see fun wispy moments. I want it to feel like I was illustrating with my paintbrush for parts of this. Now notice how I'm adding little dots. I'm following those lines that I said, remember I said have these lines kind of coming back towards this off-center bit. Well, I am following those lines and creating more interest within those lines. Now, watch as I go here into one of the petals. This is a comfort zone. This is the enjoy yourself zone. Just follow your line, add a little personality, add a little wiggle wiggle, add a little dash dash dot dot, but just enjoy. Enjoy this time. You've done the hard stuff. You're not going to be editing too much because you did a lot or most of the editing in your pencil phase, right? Now, you bet your butt I'm adding this fun stuff, because you know the daffodils, they have these like striations where they look like, do they almost look like folds? I'm not sure what to call them, but I'm sure someone here knows what these little like linear moments that I am always so obsessed with in my artwork. If you've been around here for a hot minute, you know how obsessed I am with line work. And I usually like push the line work, right? All right, I am just sinking in, enjoying this so much. Now you might notice things at this phase and you're like, oh gosh, that looks weird. Like I notice it's way too symmetrical for my taste. So I'm gonna pop a little something over here. I'm gonna even have just a little something peeking out down there, and that might just do it. Let's get these leaves filled in. Now be careful at running your hand through any of this at this moment, because it may not be completely dry and you don't want smudgy smudges. All right, now if smudgy smudges happen, we can fix them. It's not the end of the world, but you know, why not try to prevent? Now look what I'm doing here. I'm not doing a continuous line all the way up. I am adding some little bump outs, some little kind of slightly soft curved moments following that up. So fun, love that. Going a little dark here in some areas just to get some depth. Just not really outlining. I'm not really adding linear details, little dashes, little kind of quivers along certain edges there. Got one little line here, and then maybe that's fun. And then one going up the middle. And there she is. Ah! Doesn't that feel good? That feel good. All right, we're gonna move on to the ivy. All right, moving into the ivy. Now remember, we're gonna be erasing. Now you may choose not to erase, and that's okay, but I have a feeling the vast majority of you are going to want to erase the pencil lines. You're going to want to allow some time for drying. Look at how I'm kind of giving some personality, almost making it look like the ivy has a little twist in the stem. Yeah, how do we feel about that? I think I like it. I'm okay with it. I'm going to have to be okay with it because it's in pen. It's all good. It's all good. When you are inking these stems, really light touch, maybe practice a little on a scrap piece of paper because they are thin and they're close together. And if you use too much pressure, I don't think you're going to be so thrilled with yourself, because you're going to get a stem that basically is like fully filled in, really dark black or whatever, ink color you're using, and you're not going to be as happy. I find varying line quality to be so attractive, so lovely, so romantic, if you will. And I think that's why I'm mostly drawn to this type of pen, because it gives me that line quality so easily. But if you're using a pen that doesn't have the kind of bounce that this one does, the flexibility, you're not going to as easily get that line quality. That is not a bad thing. I just want to point that out. The video that I did about a year ago very similar in style to this video, I used a pen that didn't have that bounce. And that's one of the most popular videos on my channel. See what I just did there? I just talked about doing that. I made a black stem. There are ways to fix that, and we will go over that if we even feel like we want to fix it. If that happens to you, it's not the end of the world. All right. So if you are using a pen like I did in a video previous to this that was super popular, it's going to give you a lovely result. It's just going to be a different result. So it's nice to know what your style, what your expectations are, and that can help you choose the material you're using. Now, let me say this as well. If you don't have pens like this, you got a Bic, you got a Flair pen, you got a gel pen, use it. All right. Don't feel like you have to go out and buy this exact pen that I'm using, right? I understand the desire, like you want yours to look like mine. I get it, okay? I get that whenever you're following a tutorial, like you want to make the chances of what you do to look as close as possible to what the tutorial educator, whatever you want to call them, is doing. But be okay with, I'd rather you do it today than wait for that new pen to come in and then end up not doing it forever or for weeks or for months because you got distracted. I'd rather you do it today with whatever you have. So one thing, just switching gears here, you're going to notice is with these smaller areas, with this kind of pen, just naturally it's harder to get like that fineness of detail as you get into smaller areas. That's okay. Give your hand a rest if it needs it. I can literally already feel my hand kind of cramping up a bit. So be aware of your body, what's going on, and give yourself a breaky break if you need it. Also, give yourself permission to add some stuff in that you didn't with pencil. I was just feeling like I want to add a little something in here. And so I am. I'm just adding some very basic leaves. I don't know. Nothing wrong with that. All right. Let's go get those berries. Okay, these have been drying for a while, and we should be able to paint right over top without any issue. Here we go. I want to do a really simple painting effect with these because we've spent so much of our mental power on drawing and sketching and all the things. And so I almost want this part of the process to be a little bit like a relaxing reward. So I started by just putting some dampness on the page, and I went right in here with the fluorescent, and then right back here with a little bit of the pink from my palette. And I'm just kind of doing what I want to do in terms of a daffodil and what a daffodil typically looks like. Like this is my realm here. Same goes for you. This is your realm. When you get right down to it, you paint the colors you want to paint and have fun with it. Okay, so I added a little bit of like a salmon-y orange here, and then I'm taking a clean brush and spreading it around. I'm rinsing my brush. I'm going to add a little bit more. Now that this is wet, it'll blend out. And then let's get onto the green, rinsing my brush off the page.
And we're just going to add a simple stroke. I'm using a number 12 round. Use whatever green is currently got you happy about life. If you want to work from a reference photo, by all means, go right ahead, but I am not at this point. And there we go. And you could also put a little bit of something something in here, another green, just to liven things up a bit, a few strokes here and there. And then what do I want to do? I'm going to just smooth this out with a little clean water. And then I just want a little more of an orange presence. So maybe around the center here. Now, you can always come back to this. There's nothing saying you can't. But for right now, that's where I'm going to leave her. Might smooth this out a little bit here. That's it. I like how that green is kind of blending in. I'm just going to blend it a little bit more, but I like how that green is interrupting into the daffodil. And we can have a lot of fun with the ivy, because remember, it's all about what you want to add in here. Now, I just realized, and I'm actually glad this happened. I just realized I never erased. I didn't erase anything there. Now I'm going to fill in this leaf and I'm going to stop. Here's the thing though. If you decided you didn't want to erase any of those pencil lines, you really wouldn't have to. You really wouldn't have to. I'm going to go in here and erase a couple, some stronger ones there. But notice, I didn't erase any here, and you really can't see them. So, nothing to panic about. Now, I will use a clean, dry brush to kind of sweep away these little remnants, because I have wet paint in the area, and I know myself. And if I start getting in there with my hand, I'm going to smudge that wet paint. So I'm going to be a little more careful. I can use my hand down here. I actually don't want to use your hand too much anyway, regardless of wet paint on your paper or not, because the oils from your hands can ultimately kind of sink into the paper and really change the way that the paper reacts to paint. I'm going to switch to my cat's tongue, mixing that green with a little bit of peach. And I'm just rinsing and then adding some different greens. This is fun. This is relaxing. This is like, oh my gosh, I did it. I got the sketches. I figured it out. I didn't mess it up. Now I'm just going to go easy, breezy, watercolor, kind of line and wash type of fill. A little bit of pink. Mixes with that green and it gets all toned down. A little bit of blue as I come over here. A little bit of that green from before, the one right here. It's like a rusty green. And don't worry if you go outside the lines. If it bothers you, like that happened there. I don't even know how that happened, honestly. If it bothers you, you can pop in another leaf behind it. You can also try to just really rinse your brush well. You could go right next door and you could lift. And then you'll just need a little bit of paper towel. Get in there and she's good to go. And just keep that moving. Now you can take a look, see if there's anything you want to blend out. I wanted to blend out that area a little bit more. If I want to drop in, I'm going to drop in some pink, kind of one of my signature moves, back in with a clean-ish brush just to blend it out a little bit, then get out of there. a little bit of pink over here and blend with a blotted brush. Just blot on your paper towel and come back over and blend. And then maybe a little more green over here. Everything's still very damp. If your page isn't still damp as you're trying to do some of these things, just go ahead and dampen the area you want to add color to with clean water. I'm just going to add some water to get started here. Still using that cat's tongue. I like the precision it gives me when I need it, and then the width when I need more coverage. Remember, these blueberries are so full of color, so I'm immediately adding in additional colors. And then some of these, I think I want more green. I start a little wet on dry there, here, but it immediately, almost immediately becomes wet on wet. So I can pop in some pink, pop in some blue over here. All right, I'm gonna switch over to my number 12 round. We're just gonna get in there with some greens for these big leaves. I really want the berries to be the star of the show. You don't love fluorescent like I do, don't use it. It's all good. But I do love me some fluorescent, so. I am still holding my brush down further for more control. You're gonna find me holding my brush that way more than anything. I like the control it gives me. And then just filling in. At this point, it's like a coloring page. Super stress-free, dare I say. And of course, if you feel like things need a little extra something, there's nothing that says you can't go in and add that. All right, nothing at all. Actually, I'm gonna go back over to the ivy, because I just don't like the way that bled. So I'm gonna add a little appearance of a leaf behind it. Now I'm gonna test this. Now this hasn't dried. I'm gonna see if I can get some color in here quick, because I'm impatient. And if it's gonna bleed, and look at that, it really doesn't bleed at all. So that's good news. That is very, very good news. Now just a little extra here, because we want to kind of exaggerate the fact that this is curling over. Now things are still damp, so it's going to be a little harder to get that crispness at this point. So we might want to come back in a little bit when things are more dry. But it's a good start. A little bit here. All right. A little more blue up here, I feel like. Just a little. All right, keep moving on. I'm feeling like I may want to come in with a second layer on all of these as things dry, get a little more detail. I'm gonna grab my 3/4 inch dagger because I want to get coverage quickly. Just some water, and look at that, it's gorgeous, not bleeding. And then we're just gonna start dropping in all the colors. I think this one might be the most fun for you because you've got a lot of space to work with, and it's very, very forgiving, a very forgiving technique. So while the hydrangea might have been the most tricky to sketch, she's definitely the most free-spirited to paint. I hope you're having fun, friends. If you are, I would love to hear a yay in comments. And if you have a favorite so far, the daffodil, the ivy, the blueberries, and on, let me know. I'd love to hear. Which one are you going to try? Are you going to try all of them? Let's get the conversation going. And this brush will work nicely for the green as well. I'm totally down with the colors from the flower blending in. I'm going to rinse my brush and then go right up next door and just get that nice soft blend. I'll lift this a little here. I'm blotting my brush and just sweeping across the underside. And then we're going to drag some of that paint down into the branch. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of brown now that it's damp and add a little bit of brown to the branch. Rinse my brush, grab some green, and just a little sweep here. Brush is a little too big for that, but it's okay. She's good to go. Moving on to the Queen Anne's lace. With the Queen Anne's lace, less is definitely more. So I'm going in with the ivory from my Art for Joy's Sake palette, and I'm just dabbing it in with the tip of the 3/4 inch dagger, dabbing it in. And I'm leaving a lot of white space. I'm going to go ahead and add the green in here because the bud of the Queen Anne's lace definitely has a strong presence of green because everything's really tight and compact. And that's going to definitely give us that satisfying kind of Queen Anne's lace look, getting that green in there. Use whatever green you love. Traditional Queen Anne's lace is kind of like a bright olive green, I guess I would call it, but use what you love. Use the green that you're most excited about. Again, this brush is a little big for what I'm doing, but you know. And then we're going to add some dots of this green. And it will blendy blend when you hit some wet areas, and that's okay. You just don't want all of the places you hit the green, add the green dot to blend. And that is it for that. Honestly, I may come back in, do a little line work, but that is it. I'm going to add a little bit of that ivory here. And this is just another fun one to get into, kind of like the hydrangea. Just fill these bad boys in with whatever colors are making you happy right now. All right, I need to get this brush out of here. She's too big. Have a blast with it. And when we come in with the second layer, I definitely decided we're going to do a second layer of line work. It's going to sharpen things up and give a lovely contrast between washy looseness that we've got going on here. Love that peach. And just a smidge of detail. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. Look what I did there. See what I did? I tried to do a little finger swipe, get rid of paint, and I ended up, fixed. Boom shakalaka. It's all right. It's all good. Don't let those moments derail you. I know they can. I know they easily can. But there's always a solution. There's always a way to fix it, quote unquote, make it better, right? There is. Trust me. Okay, we're just going to add a few simple linear details. Nothing over the top, just something to give a little more depth. So I mixed up kind of a peachy, orangey color with this yellow, with a little bit of pink and a little bit of the ivory. You just want it to be a little more intense than the color you're going over top of. And I'm going to follow some of the sketch lines that I added. And that's really about it. really light touch. If you're unsure where to place these, just kind of follow those sketch lines. I'll go in the middle here, add a few, and then up here, just a few short ones. And then let's get a little green action. Just continue some of these lines that I already started in the sketch. A little bit over here. And then I'm feeling like I want a little more yellow in the middle. A little too much. Blot my brush off the edge of the paper. That's that. Same thing over here. You just want to follow the lines that you already added. You can make some of them continuous, some of them not. With ivy, you could do some dots or dashes. You could also choose not to add this kind of detailing. Maybe you're really happy with how things turned out and you're just happy to be happy, and that is all good. A little bit up here. These type of lines on ivy definitely take away from a more realistic look. So something to keep in mind. I'm okay with that. I'm down with that. But if you want to follow more of a realistic look, you might want to stay away from these. I'm just going to add some dots, some dashes. You just want to be really aware of how much paint is on your brush. I'm using the liner brush. If there's too much paint, you're going to find yourself, or too much water, you're going to find yourself having a really hard time getting these fine lines. So just something to keep an eye out for. All right. I really love what's going on here with the berries. I feel like I want to concentrate a little bit more on the leaves, but we'll see. Following those sketch lines, although my linear details here are more continuous. Just a few short ones there. I'm also going to go in with some really intense brown mixed with blue, and I'm going to add some where the berries meet the leaves, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do. All around here where the berries meet the leaves. I'm going to take another brush, a little bigger brush, just get some water on there, and I'm going to go right up next to it and pull it down. You're just going to get a little bit more of a definition where those two elements meet each other. I'm going to do that over here as well, and then pull it down. A little too much paint on my brush. Blend that out. There we go. Oh, where do I want to add? I want to do a little bit here. Just some short marks that kind of descend in size. And then maybe a little here. See that really subtle curve that's happening as I go up the edge of that leaf? Gives it a nice kind of soft look. I'm not going to do it on both sides there. Very picky choosy about where I'm adding this stuff. I want to accentuate the curl of this edge of this leaf, so I'm coming from the outer edge and slight curve up. I'm going to do that over here. See, these are thicker, but I'm okay with that. I was hitting it from a different angle. You might wonder, like, why is it that I apply these linear details to one part of a leaf and then I go to another part and they feel very awkward and weird? Pay attention to your angles. You may have been holding your hand at a different, dare I say, more awkward angle, like I did there. So I'm actually just going to lift these right out and let her go. So always be aware of your angle. And if you want to improve your angle and you don't want to necessarily contort your hand, just move your paper. A bit here. And we're going to be about done. I might go ahead and take just a pink and do a little bit here over top, so it's not as contrasty, but it's still something there. Right? Descending in length. All right. Okay, here we go with the hydrangea. A little bit of pink, a little bit of blue. Blot it on your paper towel. And then I'm going to go into those areas that are either pink or blue. And I'm going to emanate these lines, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I like odd numbers out from the center of that individual flower, right? Don't feel like you need to do them everywhere, because you don't. But let them emanate from that center, meaning they're going to kind of connect at the point or the center of the flower. I'm going to do a little bit of peach. Be very low contrast. Actually, I need to get something else in with that peach, or we're not going to see it at all. A little bit of pink in there. There we go. My lines are a little thicker there. I need a little more water. All right. A little bit of pink and a little bit of red for these. And yeah, I'm using that red on some of the blue areas. I kind of like it. It's funky. All right, we're going to go ahead into the leaf. Just taking some green that was already on my palette, mixing in some of the ivory. And we're going to go really sporadic. Really, really sporadic. I like the airiness of this leaf, and I want to keep it that way. A little bit of brown from my palette, and I'm just going to follow some of those sketch lines. Oh, that's really thin. A little more paint on the brush. Follow them, not everywhere, but in various places. Just follow those little curves just to add a little extra oomph. All right, adding to the Queen Anne's lace is going to be super simple, straightforward. I'm just going to grab kind of a medium grassy green with a little bit of like a yellow undertone. It's going to be pretty watery. I'm going to blot, and then I just want to create some lines. That's not quite dark enough. I'm going to add a little blue to it. But blot on a paper towel, a few strokes on a paper towel, and then you're going to create a few lines emanating from the center here. And they're just going to go right through everything. That's why we want them to be kind of light. And then a few here. Here we go. A little vein down the middle here. Even put like a suggestion of like the little hairs that you see on the stems. And there you have it. Just gonna follow the colors that are on the leaves already. So peach mixed with a little bit of pink. Same thing, very sporadic in some places. No rhyme, no reason, but just follow those sketch lines. I'm going up, add a curve, a little bit of green. This is a darker blue, thicker lines. I've got more water and more paint on my brush. But I'm going with thicker lines because I want them to show up a little more against this base green. There you go. You could also do just some press and lift. Thicker lines, because Posca plant has striations that don't necessarily follow the pattern of a vein, if you will. So I'm going to take some yellow and mix it all up in that green that I was previously using. And I'm going to add some bright press and lift to add some interest and variegation in these leaves. Some lift, a little bit of drag in there, press and lift. Adding some intense peach, picking up a little bit of green at points to tone it down. These leaves feel a little dull, so I'm going to dab a little the brighter green into them. Blue. There we go. There we go, friends. Gosh, that feels good to finish this one up. Now, if you want something a little quicker, watch this one next. Happy painting.